Walk through any city, and you'll see them everywhere. Towering skyscrapers, quiet suburban houses, old brick schools, glass office blocks. They look finished, solid, permanent. Nothing about them suggests they're still in progress. And yet, we call every single one of them a building, a word that sounds like it's still happening. It feels unfinished, almost like the cranes are still outside and the cement hasn't dried. If something is already completed, why doesn't the name reflect that? Why isn't it called a built? That tiny inconsistency sits quietly in our everyday language, unnoticed most of the time, but once you hear it, it's hard to ignore. Today we're unpacking that deceptively simple question, right here, on History of Simple Things. The word building comes from the verb to build, which traces back to Old English bilden, meaning to construct or dwell. In English, adding ing to a verb often creates what's called a gerund or verbal noun, turning an action into a thing or concept. For example, swim becomes swimming, and paint becomes painting. Sometimes these forms describe the action itself, like swimming is relaxing. Other times they refer to the result of the action. A painting can mean the act of applying paint, but it can also mean the finished artwork on a wall. Building followed the same path. It originally referred to the act of constructing something, but over time, it also came to describe the completed structure itself. English frequently allows ing words to evolve beyond actions. Consider clothing, which comes from clothe. We don't use clothing to describe the act of dressing someone. We use it to describe garments. Flooring refers to the material covering a floor, not the act of installing it. Linguists call this shift nominalization, the process where a verb form becomes a noun that represents a product, result, or associated object. Over time, the connection to the original action weakens. The word stops feeling active and starts feeling concrete. That is exactly what happened with building. What began as a word for the process gradually became the accepted label for the physical structure itself. The noun form of building appeared in Middle English around the 13th and 14th centuries. At that time, it could refer both to the act of construction and to the structure produced. English did not create a separate specialized word for a thing that has been built. Instead, the same term handled both meanings. As usage spread, the noun sense solidified. By the early modern English period, including the era of William Shakespeare, building was already commonly used to describe completed structures. Once a usage becomes widespread and understood, language rarely replaces it without strong reason. There was no confusion serious enough to demand a new word, so building remained. At first glance, built seems like it should work. It clearly signals completion. But grammatically, built is the past tense and past participle of build. English does not typically turn past tense verbs directly into countable nouns. We say a broken vase, but we don't call it a broken. We say a written letter, but not a written. Built works comfortably as an adjective, a well-built house, yet it does not function naturally as a standalone noun. English word formation tends to favor gerund forms like building, or entirely different noun forms such as construction or structure. So even though built sounds logical in theory, it does not fit established grammatical patterns in practice. There is also a subtle conceptual reason building works. Structures are rarely final in a permanent sense. They are repaired, renovated, extended, repurposed, and sometimes demolished. A house might gain another floor. An office might be remodeled. A historic structure might be restored decades later. In that sense, a building is never entirely finished within the larger timeline of human activity. The word keeps the object connected to the human act of building, the labor, planning, and craftsmanship behind it. Rather than freezing the structure in a completed moment, the term reflects its place in an ongoing cycle of construction and change. English is full of words that blur the line between action and object. A drawing can mean the act of sketching or the finished image. A meeting refers both to the act of coming together and to the event itself. A recording can be the process of capturing sound or the final audio file. This flexibility is not a flaw, it is a defining feature of the language. Over centuries, repeated usage cements meaning more strongly than strict logic ever could. Once speakers consistently use a word in a certain way, it becomes standard, even if it appears contradictory on the surface. Building fits comfortably into this long-standing pattern of linguistic flexibility. Maybe the real reason the word building feels strange is because we expect language to behave logically at all times. But language isn't engineered like architecture. It grows the way cities do, layer by layer, shaped by habit, convenience, and time. Words survive not because they are perfectly precise, but because they work well enough for everyone using them. Building stuck because it was understood, practical, and flexible. And that's often all a word needs. So the next time you walk past a finished structure and hear it called a building, it's a quiet reminder that language, like architecture, is never truly frozen. It's always evolving, even when it looks complete. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.